What's up everybody, Victor here, and it's time for another nation guide, this one being for Sweden. Before I get into it though, I do want to point out that I just had a molar extracted, so my jaw is hurting quite a lot. So I might have to pause the recording and more jumps in there than I normally would otherwise, just to give myself a break from talking. With that being said, let's go ahead and begin. Let's start this guide off by first talking about the estates and privileges. As Sweden, this is a standard start. Go ahead and grant whatever you feel like granting. There's nothing required or prohibited here, so if you feel good with it, go ahead and do it. That being said, there is a mission here called Support from the Estates that requires you to grant at least 3 privileges to at least 2 estates. So you're going to have to at least do that, which is why I gave 3 to the clergy and to the burghers. Now, by completing this mission, you have choices available to you depending on which of these estates you granted 3 privileges to. So if I granted 2 more to the nobility, I'd have an extra choice here. And what these are is a cheaper discipline advisor if you go with nobility, 10 galleys if you went with the burghers, and then 200 papal influence points if you went with the clergy. Now, while all 3 of these are good, they're not actually something you want. You want to go with this last one right here, which is just 20 prestige. The reason why is because in order to proceed down further with your mission tree, you have to revoke this modifier. When you revoke it later on, it's going to cost you 10% crown land to do so. If you go with 20 prestige though, it costs you nothing. So while you're not getting those 10 galleys or those 200 papal influence points, you're ending up with more crown land, and I'd rather have more crown land, but you can go ahead and make whatever choice you want to make with that. Once you have that mission done, it's time to move on to the rest of the setup. You're simply going to come in here and you're going to hire any of the level 1 military advisors. You don't want to pay for 2, but go ahead and hire the level 1s. If you have a good one like morale of armies or discipline, keep them. You're not going to be getting rid of them at the end of the month. If, however, you have land force limit, go ahead and fire him after the monthly tick. Once that's done, you're going to come in here and you're going to hire the free company in Stockholm, and then you're simply going to let them get hired and move on. Once you hire the military advisor, you have this right here. This simply requires that you hire one, and you're able to get Johan Vasa as a general, and you're going to put him in charge of your army. Once that's done, it's simply time to unpause, let the free company get spawned out here, because that'll let you complete another mission, which will be right here. This will spike your Liberty Desire, which will allow you to complete this mission, which allows you to pick up everyone that is rivaled against or rivaled by Denmark, so both sides here, to become your allies. And they almost always accept. So right now, because I did that, I have Poland, England, Scotland, and Burgundy all willing to help me fight Denmark. Now I just wait until I can actually declare, which will be in a couple of days now. And now that I can actually declare, I'm going to do so, and there we go. Now don't bump up your stability at this point because your next mission gives you 1 stability. So it cancels out the fact that you had to declare on your overlord. At this point, just simply hang back, don't let them siege out a fort, and let your allies take care of as much of them as you possibly can. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording because I actually need to wait for them to get up here and win it for me without me actually having to spend troops doing so. If they're standing on these forts and you're worried about them falling, engage them at that time, and then they should break off and go do something else because they're worried you're going to keep attacking them. But I'll see you guys in just a second. And welcome back everybody to the end of the First Danish War. I'm going to be taking these 4 provinces in the south. I don't have to give anything else to anybody else because either they don't have the coring range to grab anything, or in the case of Scotland, they didn't participate enough to actually justify getting any land. If they actually demand anything, it's usually just going to be Scotland, and it's going to be these islands up here, which really don't matter because you'll be getting them back from Scotland eventually anyway. However, once you're able to peace out, take these 4 provinces, take war reps if you can, and just peace out, because as you can see here, unless you're really contributing here and actually doing a lot of the fighting, you're not going to get a whole lot of the money. Once that's done though, you'll get this event that'll pop up that'll give you claims on quite a bit of land, and you'll get Johan Vasa, a 644 as a ruler. Unless you got really, really lucky with your random ruler that gets spawned, you're taking him, and you're going to want to anyway, because he's at least going to have more legitimacy than the other guy anyway. But you're going to go ahead and delete these 3 forts. The reason why is the 2 down south you don't need because you now have the 1 in Scania, and then you won't need anything going through Abo because it doesn't actually block them from getting to your land, and it's a useless fort anyway. It's just useful in this first war because if the Teutonic Order does come around, they usually just stop on this fort for whatever reason and don't do anything. I don't know why, but they don't. Once that's done, you're going to concentrate the development just to make it a little bit cheaper because you're going to be focusing on improving relations with Austria to pick them up as an alliance if you can. And this is usually going to take between about 125 to 150 opinion. So just keep improving relations, scornfully insulting, etc., and make them like you enough to ally you. So I'm going to have to pause the recording, and I'll bring you guys back once I have them actually willing to ally me. See you in a little bit. And welcome back, everybody. So once you hit Mil Tech 4, being 1 tech ahead of Austria, they should be flipping friendly with you, allowing you to pick them up as an ally, especially if you've been improving relations with them, meaning you'll hit the 200 opinion mark, which allows you to join the HRE, allowing you to expand into the HRE. This is especially useful because you will have missions later on in your mission tree, and then especially as you form Scandinavia, to get into the HRE and take a bunch of land in northern Germany. This will allow you to do that without having to constantly fight Austria to get that land. Once you've joined the HRE, though, now it's time to start expanding yet again. The next target is usually going to be Novgorod. Muscovy will attack them, and they will not be able to full annex them because they're well over 100 war score. So just hold back, wait, let Muscovy attack them, and then come in and mop up what's left afterwards, and then you'll be pushing into the Baltic countries. So I'm going to go ahead and move my army into position to actually take advantage of this Novgorodian war, to jump in and take what's remaining after Muscovy takes land, and then I'll be getting ready to go after the Livonians, hopefully with either the Polish or the Austrians willing to come in. Gotland is also somebody I'm looking at attacking, however they can pick up allies such as the Lubeck Trade League as you see here, or even Poland or Lithuania. If they pick up one of them, you'll have to attack Gotland while you're attacking the Baltic countries and calling these guys in to help you fight them. Otherwise, when it's something like this, you can declare and then just simply wait everybody else out and then navally invade Gotland. In this case, though, I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording. I'll see you guys in just a little bit. Welcome back, everybody. So I just got done fighting Novgorod. I took all the stuff in the north of theirs, and then I vassalized what's left in the south because I'm going to be using their cores to reconquer all of this land. Now, I am now going to go after the Livonian Order because I want not only all of the Livonian Order's land and Riga, of course, but I also want Danzig, and because they usually do not get anybody else as allies other than Riga and the Teutonic Order, they're a very easy way to prevent the Danzig event from firing without having to declare on the Teutonic Order directly and dealing with all of their potential allies, because usually they'll have a lot of them in there. Now, if you're going to attack the Livonian Order, and you're going to have to keep them in the war long enough to go after Gotland, because again, they may ally somebody like Poland, Lithuania, etc., then when you declare, make certain that you make the war goal something that's going to take you a while to siege down. For instance, Liefland because it's the capital, or Reval because it's a fort, or Letgalen because again it's a fort. Simply because you will not get the call for peace until you've actually taken the war goal. So simply by setting your war goal as something you actually have to spend time sieging out, it'll make it so you have more time to go after Gotland before you start racking up war exhaustion just because you haven't pieced out fast enough. In this case, I'm going to make Liefland my war goal, even though I don't have to worry about it. Calling in Poland because it'll make it a stupidly easy fight and declaring. Now, if you are going to try and get Danzig, make certain you improve relations with Poland as much as you can. Not just to the 200, but as much as you possibly can. Because when you take Danzig, they are going to hate you. When you take all of this land, they are going to hate you. So you need to be certain before you take it that you have so much opinion with them that even though you've taken this vital interest land that they wanted, they're still willing to be your ally. And it does not always work, even if you do it then. So just be aware, if you take all the Livonian Order and Danzig, or even just the Livonian Order, Poland might break their alliance with you. So if you're trying to do this to get down here and get them as a personal union, you might be flushing that down the drain now. But it is still absolutely worth it to do. I'll get to that point later. But I'll see you guys a little bit once I'm done with this war. And welcome back, everybody. So it's now time to peace out of this war. As you can see, the Polish are about to siege out Danzig, which means if I come in here and I take it now, I'll be the one that gets it. If I let them siege it, I'll have to give it to them, and I don't want to do that. I'm taking not only Danzig, but as much money as I possibly can. Now that they're out, I can go ahead and deal with the Livonian Order how I want to, and because the Polish took this occupation here, well, I only have one option, and that's to go ahead and just make them into a vassal, even though I would much rather just annex them outright. But it is what it is. As you can see here, a coalition will kind of form, but it really won't matter, and it won't have anybody that's actually a threat to me, so wait a day, peace them out. Now I get to see whether or not Poland is going to break their alliance with me. They should have enough opinion here where it shouldn't quite kick me there, but they might still just set me as a rival and break it. So we shall certainly see. If they do not, I'm going to use them to attack Muscovy once we've all had a chance to simply recover for half a second. So I'm going to go ahead and let you guys go. I'll see you guys in just a second, but I'm going to get my navy ready, take on Gotland, and to take on Muscovy, because I have cores I need to get out of Muscovy. See you in just a second. And the game being given away for this video is Surviving the Aftermath. Now, because nobody was actually commenting on the videos where I just gave you guys the CD key, we're not going to be doing it that way anymore. Instead, if you want to get a chance to get this game, all you need to do is leave a comment below of "I will survive." After a couple of hours, I'll come back, find one of your guys' comments, and reply to that comment with the CD key. So be sure you actually pay attention to your notifications, because even if I left it as a reply to you, if somebody else sees it before you and redeems it, they get the game. So just reply below with "I will survive" and pay attention. You might get Surviving the Aftermath, and then you can prove that you will survive. Let's go ahead and get back to the guide. And welcome back, everybody. So it's been a couple of years since you last saw me, and I haven't been able to expand since that time. The reason why is I forgot to do something at the beginning of the game, and that made it so I had a coalition. Namely, I forgot to move my merchants to the Lubeck and the Saxony trade nodes and set them to improve relations. Because I didn't do that the entire time, I haven't been burning off my aggressive expansion, which means that Muscovy and Denmark, Gotland, and then a couple of people in the HRE were able to join a coalition, meaning I couldn't attack Muscovy for all of Novgorod's cores. If you remember to do that, you should be able to pull off everything I've done so far, plus taking back Novgorod's cores, and then taken Norway before anybody will actually join a coalition. Unfortunately, since I forgot to do that, didn't quite go that way. But in this game, I'm able to now do this. Now, I did wait and hold off on completing this mission right here, because by doing so, you get a personal union CB to get Norway as a personal union. Now, when you have this thing pop up, click the top option. You will have to fight rebels here, but it's not like it's a huge deal. And you want the economy coming in, especially since these provinces are very highly developed, and you want them to be your culture anyway. Once you have that done, just go and fight off the rebels. And now that I have the CB to go against Denmark to take Norway off of them, I'm going to declare. I'm calling in every ally that I possibly can here, and I'm going to fight them. So I'm going to have to end up fighting this and bring you guys back, but as soon as I'm done with Denmark, and I feel like I can do so, I'm attacking Muscovy and getting the Novgorod cores back from them, and then I might go in and take on the Teutonic Order, because I should also be able to get the claims off of them without too much difficulty, but it depends entirely on how long their truce is going to be, because they did pick up both Denmark and Muscovy, and I want to break that alliance chain. So I'll see you guys in just a little bit. And welcome back. So Norway is now a personal union, and Gotland has fallen, taking all their money, taking their land. Delete this fort. It is completely useless. It doesn't do any good for you. And then once you have Norway as a personal union, as long as you have over 50 opinion, do this mission at that point, because it'll make them a historical friend, which means they will almost never have any liberty desire. Now it's time for me to turn and go after Muscovy, because, well, now I actually am able to, because they are not in a coalition. And I'll be calling in Poland once they are willing to, because it looks like they just have a lot of debt, so I'll probably have to pay all that off, and get ready for having to pay off your AI's debt. For whatever reason, they still can't handle having any amount of money that they have to spend, because they always go into a debt spiral. But I'm going to attack Muscovy, take back Novgorod's land, which will take away Novgorod itself, and prevent Russia from ever forming, meaning I will have no one to my east of any real threat. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. See you in just a second. Welcome back, everybody. As you can see, Novgorod is back to their larger selves since I took back all of their core territory from Muscovy, and doing so makes them extremely loyal. I have about a 90% Liberty Desire reduction in Novgorod simply by doing so. And I'm using that 90% to do two things. One, I enforced religion on them, flipping them to Catholic, because that only costs 50%, since they are within the religious group that I'm flipping them to. They're going from Orthodox to Catholic. The reason why is because now I can religiously convert them, and so can May, and it'll be a little bit quicker since they have Novgorodian culture, meaning I'm able to simply pull them over without any real difficulty, and then I'll have them without any separatism in Novgorod. And I don't really need to rush, because the other thing I'm doing is having them transfer trade power to me at 100%. Meaning that I'm not suffering in any way financially while I'm doing other things, while Novgorod is simply over here religiously converting their own provinces for me later on. And of course, I'm going to be diplo-annexing them throughout that whole time. Go through here if you want to, and just make certain all the provinces you need to have converted quickly are done, because you're going to eventually, or at least most likely, depending on what game you're playing, flip over to one of the Reformation religions since you're playing as Sweden. Other than that, I'm simply working on getting the Livonians integrated. I might expand into the Teutonic Order and into the HRE. But now's the time to actually talk about the other thing you need to do, and that is Poland. You see, as Sweden, you do have one mission in here, right here, that will make it so you have to choose what you're going to be doing with Poland. You can either try and go for a personal union on Poland, to straight up conquer Poland, or to make them an ally and have them as a historical friend. Which path you choose is going to be entirely up to you, but here's the thing. If you go down the path of a personal union and you do not have the same dynasty of them already, it's going to be up to whether or not Poland likes you enough to not rival you. And if you take any more land, whether that's in the Teutonic Order or in Muscovy, because as you can see, they want all of that land, they're likely to break their alliance with you and then eventually rival you. And if they do that, you're not going to be able to easily get them as a personal union, because you're not really going to be able to influence their elective monarchy to have the same heir. If you are going the diplomatic route and you're going to slow down your expansion, at least into the Teutonic Order or into Muscovy, by all means you can try and go that route. But in my experience, any more expansion from what I've already done, they're going to rival you. It's just a guarantee. And if that's what you're going down, the second option here, where you're going to conquer land from Poland yourself in the Polish region, that is what you're going to be aiming for. So make your mind up now. Are you expanding into the Prussian or the Muscovite lands, or are you going to simply stick to colonialism or into the German lands, where they really don't care what you do? And the entire time, if you're going down the personal union route, you need to constantly be topping up your opinion with Poland. That being said, not quite up to that point where I'm going to bother keeping them as a personal union, so I'm going this route in this guide. You do whatever you want to do. That being said, that is an amazingly large Hungary. They're doing really, really well down here. Oh no. Allied Denmark. Well, I'm going to be the second victor to ruin Hungary then. But at this point, I'm simply waiting for my Denmark truce to expire, and then I'll go back in on Denmark and wrap up the Scandinavian territories. And it's time to start looking at Germany itself, because they are going to be your next likely path of expansion, other than just continuing to push east and south into Poland. So I'll see you guys in a little bit. And welcome back, everybody. As you can see, the Danes have been pushed off of Zeeland. They're now just on Jutland, and I'll eventually come back and get that from them as well. However, during that war, despite the fact that Austria was in mine, Austria decided, you know what, Milan looks really weak, I'll make them a personal union subject. The problem with that is that they were about a month away from capitulating to France as a personal union subject as well. So Austria declared and brought in all of Milan's allies, and then on top of that, when they fell to France, France got brought in and all of France's allies. So yeah, Austria just got completely destroyed in a truly spectacular fashion. So Austria is having a fun game. Hungary, however, not quite as fun, because they just lost about 1,000 ducats when I attacked Denmark. But that is basically what I'm going to be doing moving forward, simply pushing the Danes out of Jutland, removing them from the map, and then looking at northern Germany. Before you get to northern Germany, though, let's talk about one of the ways that you can expand into northern Germany now. As Sweden at this point, you're basically a large fish in a very small pond, because you control pretty much all of Scandinavia and northern Russia, and the northern Germans are relatively small countries, meaning that you're going to be able to use your weight, your sheer size economically and militarily, to leverage them into becoming your vassals. Without any war, without any aggressive expansion, anything at all, they're just going to be willing to in most situations. While it looks like there's only 2 here, that's before I ally them, I royal marry them, I do anything with ideas like espionage to get 15 extra reasons there. In reality, if I want to go through and get espionage ideas, I would probably be able to get down into Lübeck on this list before I run out of people to do this to. Meaning that I'm able to expand and take out most of northern Germany without a war. Meaning I can just focus on colonization, taking over the British Isles, or pushing into Muscovy without making the Germans mad, because they're really not going to care. On top of that, once the Reformation starts, it makes it significantly easier because they're usually going to be a different religion in North Germany than anybody else in Europe, meaning people just aren't going to care what you're doing down there, allowing you to pick up the larger tags like Brandenburg, the Teutonic Order, or Wolgast with less aggressive expansion, meaning you're able to build a massive power base in the British Isles, Germany, and Russia that no one else is really going to be able to stop. Now, I realize I didn't quite make this clear earlier. As far as this mission right here with Poland, don't click it if you're going down the personal union route until you actually share a dynasty, so they are either Vasa or you lose the Vasa dynasty and become the Jagiellonian or whatever they happen to be, because otherwise you run the risk of just ending up with a dead mission here until you remove Poland from the map, and that's just not worth it. So if you want to go that route, just hold off on completing the mission until you're actually ready to. Invading the British Isles is pretty easy because all you need to do is basically invade Scotland when they don't have any allies with a strong navy. It doesn't matter if they have a strong army, so for instance France really doesn't matter because their navy sucks really, really hard. All you need to do is make sure Poland is your friend and then pick up somebody such as Wolgast to prevent them from walking to the east and blockade Orison here for about 5 years, and then France will peace out in a white peace, allowing you to then invade Scotland. Just make sure you don't have anybody there that can actually occupy the war goal, and by doing so, you're preventing yourself getting the call to peace earlier, allowing you to have the time to actually navally invade them and try and get land there, and once you get one province, the rest is stupidly easy. Meaning that all of this land here is pretty easy for you to grab because you can get claims on it, including Norway can do it for you just by setting it as vital interest territory, and they'll drop the claims for you. Meaning that you're able to get the North Sea Empire pretty quickly, as well as also push into Russia, making yourself a giant horseshoe across the European area, and then you can just collapse down on top of them whenever you're ready. So the rest of your game is going to largely depend on how your game is playing out. For instance, does France beat Austria, or does Austria beat France, etc.? And that's not really a thing I can predict in the guide. But there are 3 things you guys should be aware of, the first of which is actually a correction to something I said earlier, realized doesn't work that way while I was recording, went back and did more testing, and now I'm back to correct it. And that is Novgorod, specifically flipping them to Catholic using the Enforce Religion button. Don't do it. The reason why is I forgot that they added the Grant Orthodox Autonomy button here, which means that they will grant it and you will not be able to convert any of their provinces. I went back and tested this about 20 times. Every single time they grant that privilege, so there is 0 reason for you to convert them into Catholic at all. Just don't do it. Just let them be what they are, conquer them directly, or do what I did and then integrate them so you have no separatism, and then go through and convert them manually, because you're not going to be able to use Novgorod to convert them for yourself. The next thing to keep in mind is Burgundy still does, in the current patch, have a very high chance of giving you this Holy War CB against the Ottomans through their mission tree. Just keep an eye on it, because they might randomly give it to you, and it only lasts about 10 years, but if you have strong allies that are going to be willing to come in, you can use it to get a lot of war reps out of the Ottomans, or a lot of money out of them, or just shatter them apart and make them release a couple of tags here and there to significantly slow them down, meaning you're not going to have an Ottoman problem later in the game. The last thing I want to talk about is this mission right here, Bane of the Hansa. There are 2 ways that you can complete this mission. 1, you own Lübeck yourself, and then you'll get 4 production development and 100 prosperity progress, or you occupy it in a war, and you have 50% war score against them. And what this does is it'll make the province get looted. You loot all of the thing here, they get 100% devastation. The thing is that it doesn't tell you, but you also get not only the money here in terms of loot, but you'll also get 400 ducats in addition to that and a little bit of military power. And like, I'm talking like 15 military power, it's like nothing. But 400 ducats is absolutely worth it to do it that way with this mission. So try and make certain that Lübeck is still around so that you can occupy it in a war to complete it that way, because the prosperity really doesn't matter if you have other provinces to build up prosperity in. While it's nice to have it here, it's not vital, and you can always dev yourself out of it or just release them as your own vassal to increase your trade good amount because they're a merchant republic, and get it that way, and they will dev themselves out of the devastation over time. I just wanted to point that out because that 400 ducats can absolutely fund future expansion to make yourself even stronger fairly early on, because all you need to do is control a few provinces in northern Germany right here, and you'll be able to do that mission. So try and do that as soon as you can, because 400 ducats early multiplies to a lot more later on. With all of that being covered, you guys should be good to go playing as Sweden. If you found this guide helpful, or if you're going to use any part of it in a future game, like and subscribe. I'm definitely going to be covering more nations in the future. If you want me to cover a particular country, let me know in a comment below, regardless of where it's at. But my next region I'm going to, once I wrap up with Scandinavia, I'm heading to Italy. So if you want to see something in Italy in particular, leave it in the comment below, because I'm not going to cover it unless you guys ask for it, because there's a lot of CAGs to cover in EU4. But with all that being said, thank y'all for watching. Have a wonderful day.